Ladies and gentlemen, in this video, I'm going to tell you how the updated HEROES Act, the $2.2 trillion Democrat counteroffer that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi just unveiled yesterday, is calling for funding for another round of stimulus checks, enhanced unemployment insurance payments funded by the federal government until January of next year, another round of economic injury disaster loan grant, and modifications to the economic injury disaster loan, how those funds are disbursed. So, the updated HEROES Act is calling for $1,200 stimulus checks for individual taxpayers who make up to $75,000, $2,400 stimulus checks to couples who make up to $150,000 who file their taxes jointly, and $500 per dependent. $600 a week enhanced unemployment insurance payments funded by the federal government until January. $75 billion for contact tracing and testing. $436 billion for state and local governments. As you very well know, Democrats were demanding around $1 trillion, $915 billion for state and local governments, and that is what actually caused the logjam in negotiations with the administration in order to make a deal for the next round of stimulus. And this bill is appropriating it's calling for $50 billion for another round of the economic injury disaster loan grant. So that means that there will be another round of economic injury disaster loan grant for people who have not applied. Nonetheless, the bill does not package funding or does not mandate the Small Business Administration disburses the full $10,000 economic injury disaster loan grant to all legitimate small business applicants pursuant to S.4227. So we have to contact House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, speaker.gov, to ensure that she includes funding for S.4227 or the SBA's full disbursement of the $10,000 economic injury disaster loan grant to all legitimate small business applicants. We can contact her at speaker.gov. We'll get more into that in a minute. This bill is also correcting the language in the CARES Act. As you know already, and I've cited several times, according to the courts, not me, the CARES Act actually gave the Small Business Administration discretion to disperse grants as they saw fit. Whether you were approved for the loan, even if you were declined, they had the option to play with it. They didn't even have to give you $1,000 per employee. They could give you a pumpkin pie slice per employee based off what the CARES Act statutory language reads. Because basically the CARES Act, I'll go ahead and read it for you. It basically reads that an applicant for the economic injury disaster loan may request an advance. And I think that anyone can request anything from anybody in this country. I'll just read to you what it reads. Emergency grant. This is subsection E. In general, during the covered period, an entity included for eligibility in subsection B included small business concerns, private nonprofit organizations. I've showed you this several times. Basically, a small business in response to the virus may request that the administrator provide an advance that is subject to paragraph 3 in the amount requested by such applicant to such applicant within 3 days after the administrator receives an application from such applicant. So as an applicant, you may request ice cream, or you may request a slice of pumpkin pie, drizzled with maple syrup and pecans and sauteed bananas, I guess. Anyway, you may request, but nowhere in this law does it mandate the Small Business Administration disburses a grant. So this updated HEROES Act is actually aiming to correct that language by reading the following. Section 403, modifications to emergency EIDL advances in general during the covered period. All right, section 1110E1 of Division A of the CARES Act 15 USC is amended to read as follows. In general, during the covered period, an entity included for eligibility in subsection B, including small business concerns, private nonprofit organizations, and small agricultural cooperatives that applies for a loan under section 7B2 of the Small Business Act in response to the virus, shall be provided an advance that is subject to paragraph 3, dispersed within 3 days after the administrator receives an application from such entity, unless the advance is specifically declined by such entity. They have to do it. It's not simply just giving the option to an applicant to request that, which I don't see how that's mandating the Small Business Administration to do anything. This is mandating the Small Business Administration to disperse those grants through this bill. Although, as I said before, we have to demand that the Speaker packages funding for S.4227 so the Small Business Administration disburses the full $10,000 economic injury disaster loan grant to all legitimate small businesses pursuant to S.4227. It does everything that we require, that it disperses $10,000 grants to all legitimate small business applicants and pays people retroactively who were recipients of the grant at $1,000 per employee. Now, in regards to the economic injury disaster loan, the Small Business Administration has discretion now to reduce the interest rates on economic injury disaster loans and defer payments of principal and interests for up to 4 years. Also, under this bill, the Small Business Administration is blocked from capping loans at $150,000 or $15,000 or $500,000. The Small Business Administration will have to disburse loans of up to $2 million for eligible entities. And the bill is also allowing businesses who did not receive a full loan for 6 months of working capital to go ahead and request an increase. A number of people have been struggling in requesting increases for the economic injury disaster loan. Also, the bill is mandating that the Small Business Administration notify Congress within 2 days of expending any money appropriated for these modifications or for the economic injury disaster loan grant when the fund drops below 25%. The bill is also mandating that if the Small Business Administration rejects or partially rejects a small business's application for an economic injury disaster loan, then the Small Business Administration will have to let the applicant know in writing what were the reasons and give the applicant an opportunity to update their information in order to stand a better chance to being approved for the economic injury disaster loan. There'll be a dedicated phone line and a dedicated email line through which applicants can inquire about the status of their economic injury disaster loan, and a loan officer will be assigned to each applicant of the economic injury disaster loan to ensure that they stand the best chance of being approved for the economic injury disaster loan. This bill is calling for another SBA-backed loan where businesses with 50 employees or less that have suffered revenue losses of 30% or greater for an 8-week period between March 2nd and December 31st when compared to the same period in 2019 can apply for a loan that makes up 6 months of working capital or $50,000, whichever number is less. These businesses would have to be owned by veterans, businesses owned by socially disadvantaged individuals, businesses in low-income areas, remote recreation businesses. These are businesses that have suffered revenue losses due to the closure of the United States and Canadian border. And these businesses will have to be prioritized. Small Business Administration will have to disperse funds to these businesses in the amounts that I just described within 56 days' time. So, as I said before, the bill is calling for another round of the economic injury disaster loan grant, but it fails to provide funding and the law that mandates that the Small Business Administration disperses the full $10,000 economic injury disaster loan grant to all legitimate small business applicants. So, we have to contact speaker.gov and let her know that we want her to include funding for S.4227 or just the SBA's full disbursement of the $10,000 economic injury disaster loan grant to all legitimate small business applicants. And we have to contact sbc.senate.gov so they continue to support this and pass that on to their leaders to ensure that the Small Business Administration again disperses the full $10,000 economic injury disaster loan grant to all legitimate small business applicants. Let me know what you think. Drop your comments in the comment section below. Watch this video right here. For more stimulus and economic injury disaster loan grant and enhanced unemployment insurance payment coverage, click the like button. If you like the video, click the subscribe button to stay on top of my findings. We'll get more in depth in this act and keep you abreast of any developments in regards to the existing negotiations. Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin were set to speak this morning I'll keep you updated to all developments and let you know what we have to do to ensure that these lawmakers package all the monetary ammunition you need to save and feed your families, save your businesses, keep your employees on payroll, and ultimately save this country. May God bless you. May God bless the United States of America and everybody else on this planet. Talk soon.